Mr Speaker. New Zealand First supports this bill.
Ian McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak in support of this bill and the third reading of the Bail Amendment Bill. I was a little concerned, I suppose, yesterday when I thought it was unfortunate during the committee stages yesterday when I heard a Speaker refer to this piece of legislation as populist. I don't really think that populist is a term I would apply to it. I think it's a very structured piece of legislation that fills, or not fills, but moves the bail system with the times, and I think it's really important that we do that. And it's going to make quite a lot of difference to the way the system works. It's a piece of this bill is one of a suite of legislation introduced by National and a comprehensive program of law and order reform, which is unquestionably working, and I'll touch on a little bit of that shortly. It's achieving much better results than one could have hoped for. Mr Speaker, this bill improves the integrity of the bail process. It gives police the ability to make positive decisions with respect to people who fail to answer police bail. It tightens significantly the bail arrangements for defendants under 20 years of age, and it reverses the onus on those people to prove they are capable and worthy of release on bail. And again, we heard from the Greens, unfortunately from a member of the Greens who was never at one point at any stage present during the submission process. I think if one had been present during the submission process, one would take a very different view of this. When someone's proved they cannot be trusted, surely the onus must go back on them to prove they can be trusted. And I think that's the simplest way of looking at the reverse burden of proof. It's really putting people who have proved in the past they cannot be trusted in the position of having to prove they can before they, in this case, receive bail. I don't think that's unreasonable, unjustifiable, and I certainly don't think it breaches people's rights. I think once you've breached that trust, the onus is on you to sort yourself out. Phil Goff, during the debate on this bill, has mentioned a number of times the 50 more beds required as a result of this bill. Those figures, Mr Speaker, take no account of the great results this government policies are achieving in reducing both reoffending and youth crime. And we're seeing youth crime rates significantly down, and of course youth crime is the part that's the area that particularly applies to this bill, and particularly where we might have seen the significant increase in bed use, because that's the part of the bill that has the most impact in that area of the younger people. During the, at the end of this conclusion of the Select Committee process, we had the opportunity, Mr Speaker, to visit the courts to get a better understanding of how the bail system works in practice. I was both surprised and impressed at the efficiency and have a much better understanding of the pressures on both police and judges. I also understand the need for speed in the bail system. Information processes are essential to an effective, efficient bail system through our courts. Whilst there's always going to be issues with bail and the way it's granted, there's certainly always going to be pressure on the courts because of the need for speed. I think this bill has followed a really good process. It achieves a good position given the situation that we're in and given the need to protect people's rights. I want to congratulate the Chairman on what at times was a very difficult process, and the Chair, Jackie Dean, and Mark Mitchell have both appropriately acknowledged the Marceau family and other families who family members who contributed to the submission process on this bill. It was a pretty testing time for many of them. So, Mr Speaker, I have great pleasure in supporting this bill as it passes through the House.
Chris Farfoy.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker.